So knowing that that's out there, knowing that you want to reach God consciousness, you want to have your third eye open, see the astral realm, see energy, live past lives, be telepathic, whatever your goal is or whatever you think might happen on the spiritual path, there's a lot that could take us from being grounded. So in the spiritual energetic map, you have the root chakra. And I teach that quite a bit in wizard school, and there's a lot of that on YouTube. Teal Swan, Aaron Doherty, myself. There's a lot of stuff about how to strengthen the root chakra, how to be comfortable in the material realm, how to feel safe, how to release trauma, all that stuff. Anything related to money and survival. So I'm not going to turn this into a root chakra workshop, but if you have any curiosity or self-initiative at all, that's your path, that's your rabbit hole for being grounded. Now, there's a lot of practical solutions too. If you're coming to this from a very practical materialist standpoint and you're earlier on your material journey or your spiritual journey, you can get things like grounding blankets. You can get things like this Golden Wave anti-EMF shield. They have a ton of research. You can put it on pretty much any device. And what this does is this will lower the EMFs, if not neutralize them, in those devices so they don't affect you in a negative, harmful way. And how do EMFs affect your body, your brain, your energy body, your microbiome? That research is out there too. So if that's something you feel intuitively or practically drawn to, I suggest and encourage you to look at that. There's things in this world that unground us just from our biochemistry, just from our, electrochemical makeup and chemical soup that we call a human body. Yeah, you can look at light bodies, you can look at soul matrices. If you really want to, you can look at astrology and karma and other stuff like that. But I agree with Bashar when he says, these things are permission slips. If you're waiting for your astrology chart to say, this is a good day to sign contracts, that's your permission slip, but it's also a detention slip for any day that isn't. And if you've read or listened to Autobiography of a Yogi, or you're in touch with organizations related to that group and that teaching, and that was from Paramahansa Yogananda, who was Steve Jobs' guru. Jobs gave that book to every person who came to his memorial service. Pretty big deal for the builder of the biggest tech company in the world, pointing to a mystery school like that. But they talk about a bangle, an astrological bangle. They look a little bit like this. This is something else, which I'll describe later. And these bangles are said to neutralize negative astrological influences. But if you go high up enough the ladder of awareness, if you get to unity, non-duality consciousness, an enlightened state, even for a second, you realize you are all things, including that bangle that can neutralize astrology, including all the astrology systems. And you could realize maybe you don't need astrology. Maybe you don't need it to affect you. Maybe you can reclaim that part of yourself that can know intuitively if it's a good time to sign a contract or start a relationship or move, or a lot of these general horoscope things that are shared often without deeply tuning in to the person getting the reading. I think maybe 2% of the astrology readings ever given, if not 0.2%, are actually really good, having had a number myself and studied the field a bit, just because it's not a regulated field. So as far as other ways of being grounded, I think generally you might be aware of that. What are you putting into your body? Are you feeling anxious because of what you're putting into your body or what you're not putting into your body? Are you breathing and meditating, which even from the most secular perspectives helps tonify the vagus nerve, which helps you be centered, helps your organs relax, helps your parasympathetic, your resting nervous system be at a calm state? Have you researched or do you know of little practices you can do energetically, like tapping the forehead or putting ice on the forehead to pull blood from your amygdala if you're triggered, or moving your jaw forward like that? I don't know if you heard the crack, I just cracked a bit, because especially in America, we have some of the tensest jaws and thus, interestingly enough, thinnest lips on the planet. And if you have a tense jaw, that can pull on your occiput, which is near your brainstem. And if there's tension there, if there's not good blood flow or nervous system flow, you can feel ungrounded. So there's practical and there's spiritual solutions for all this stuff. And a lot of reasons people who are deep in spirituality avoid grounding things is it might be uncomfortable to be in our bodies, to be in this material world. We incarnated here for a certain reason. We have chosen not to end our lives, most likely because we'll always have to repeat the same lessons for some other reason. So if we're in this life and in these bodies for however many decades, or if you do certain advanced practices that I could share if you DM me, over 100 years, well over, then how do you get comfortable? the path of healing. That's the path of realizing if you hold a samskara, if you hold a wound, if you hold a trigger, if you hold a trauma in your system, and you get triggered, you want to escape from your body. Maybe you have a story that something terrible happened to you, or it was unfair, or it's because of whatever happened. But as an adult, as a sovereign being, you in this very moment can choose the course for the entire rest of your life. Now, that doesn't mean like something will change like that, but just like lifting weights, if you put in the work, the time, the energy, effort, the commitment, your muscles will grow bigger and stronger, and you'll lose body fat. So if being in this body and being in this world and being grounded is difficult, if focusing is difficult, do what you need to do. To get grounded in my own system after going so far out there, from 5 sources of PTSD, 2 near-death experiences, and probably 10 closed head injuries from martial arts, I can definitely say that getting a brain scan was actually one of the most valuable things to help me be grounded. I had all the spiritual maps. I had a fair amount of biochemistry under my belt, but actually getting a clear picture of my brain from a place called Amen Clinics, which is AMEN Clinics, was so valuable because I learned how things were firing. And in the recommended treatments, which I did, I learned how to rewire my brain. And one of my favorite mentors and teachers, Brendan Bouchard, had a similar scenario. He had a closed head injury while off-roading. He became irritable and ungrounded and unfocused. He got a brain scan. He healed his brain with similar methods, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, the right high-quality supplements, and good neurofeedback. And it got him, right back to peak performance. And now he's, best-selling author and giving 4-day-long workshops where he's just full of energy. He's called the Energizer Bunny, giving great content. He's making a great living. He's impacting a lot of people's lives, giving a lot of value, has a lot of options for how he wants to spend his time. So if there's any barrier, you think, to you being grounded, being focused, getting over, transitioning away from patterns, which maybe in the past you thought of could be ADD or depression or anxiety or bipolar or some other, disorder, maybe it's just a chain of cause and effect, and you can shift that chain and shift yourself. And that might be a bigger deal for some people and less for others. So if that's something you feel you might need help for, please reach out to me. I do mentor people one-on-one, and whether it's a message or a call or a series of calls, I'd be really happy to help you with your own personal, individual situation, getting as clear as you can with as much as I know, and being honest with you with things I don't know. In terms of balancing biochemistry, I know a lot, but I don't have a certification as a nutritionist or a psychiatrist.